Hey guys, it's me. I'm asking you to subscribe since the story is about a guy who's rejected for being white. Well, you get it, right? Right? He was rejected and almost ended up being killed, and what happens next? Find out. Leave a like, of course. Don't forget. Our story begins with a young man hitting a wall with a pickaxe until the wall starts dripping a suspicious liquid, and he feels very happy for having found what he wanted. He quickly grabs a container to hold the liquid, and he is accompanied by a kind of black cat named Nero, whom he feels very grateful for because it was thanks to him that the young man found the liquid. If the young man could extract as much as possible, maybe the Pioneer's Corps would finally accept him. After that, he leaves the place and immediately sees the city, which shines with a huge brightness, creating something like a rainbow. In the city, many people are watching closely. There are what they call colorists around, and many people have brightly colored hair and clothes. The people think the colors they have are incredible and spread rumors that the colorists once defeated a giant creature on a certain day. Because of this, the people respect the colorful ones and believe they truly deserve that title. The people believe that if the colorists are nearby, the shining city will always be safe. Then the scene changes to the Shadow District, where there is some movement of people. The admission exam of the Pioneers' Corps is taking place, and the young man who had extracted the black liquid in the cave is thrown to the ground, where they want him to disappear immediately. One of the men in the group, throwing him to the ground, thinks he is very persistent and warns that this place is not for people like him. The young man cannot understand and explains that he brought the ink. He wants to know what the problem is this time, because he managed to prove that he is qualified with the ink. The man becomes angry and thinks he needs to spell it out for the young man. He explains that the young man has no color, that people are born with their roles already decided, but the red-haired man thinks that sometimes idiots like the young man do not know their place and appear out of nowhere. To make things worse, the man launches an attack on the colorless young man and calls him a cursed one without color. He makes it very clear that the pioneers are only those who are chosen. He wants to say that only those with color can be pioneers, declaring that the weak cannot survive in the Black Lands. Outside the city, everything is swallowed by darkness, and it is impossible to see even a step ahead. In the darkness, there are all kinds of dangerous creatures, called creatures. The pioneers risk their lives to explore the unknown and find resources and treasures. They bet their lives for the future of humanity, and he even thinks they could be called true heroes. Again, he tries to affect the young man, warning that for someone without color, it is absolutely impossible. He should act like every colorless person and do the work of those without color, wanting the young man to disappear and never come back. He threatens that if the young man appears there again, he will kill him. The young man becomes downcast while Nero worries about him, but he reassures Nero that everything is fine because there are many places they can go, and he is already used to this. He will definitely become the greatest colored person of all time. He promised this to himself and asked the black cat to go back into his jacket because no one can see him. He gets up, thinking they should look for another place, hoping to find a place that will accept them. Meanwhile, a green-haired person is watching him. The colorless young man starts walking and carries a notebook where he crosses out all the places that do not accept him. He sighs because it is another day without success and stops in Mari's workshop, realizing he cannot avoid it. He tells Mari that he is back. Mari, who is also colorless, welcomes him happily. She wants to know why he looks upset and asks if he failed again. He confirms that he did. Nero jumps out of his jacket to greet her. Mari thinks people simply do not recognize talent when they see it. She believes he's probably stronger than most pioneers. The young man feels he cannot do anything because no one accepts colorless people. Mari thinks his abilities are more than proven because he can bring things back from the Black Lands easily, but he believes this is only possible because he has Nero's help. He shows the container with blue ink and asks if she could buy it from him. Mari is surprised and says she will pay very well for it. She quickly pours the ink into a machine and feels a little relieved, explaining that it has been hard to find ink lately and she is running out. The price is very high, and the young man thinks this is why people say they need to increase the number of pioneers, because all their support depends on the ink. The young man is willing to work hard on anything, but no corporation accepts him. Marie then reveals the young man's name, Kay, and asks if he thought about what she said earlier. But Kay did not like that place very much, and Mari thought he was speaking nonsense. She quickly grabbed a paper and thought he should try everything because he never knows the results, and she could be his chance. That was the S-Rank Corporation, and because he always assumed he failed, he hesitated to apply. He did not know if his abilities could really be recognized. Mari thought this was a great opportunity for Kay, and he should give it a chance because they said the selection was based on skill, and he could finally be recognized. After all, she knew Kay wanted to be a colorist, and he had said this since they were children. She would always support him no matter what he did. Kay began to smile, realizing that he really could not afford to hesitate. He took the paper and thanked Mari, saying he would return later. She told him to be careful. Kay left the workshop, and looking at the paper, he realized there was not much time, so he had to prepare well. Then Nero, who was inside his jacket, started to tremble, and Kay became confused. He asked the black cat what was wrong, but there was a man behind him with a wand. It was the same green-haired man who had been spying on him from inside. He pointed the wand at Kay and launched an attack. Kay did not expect it, but he managed to move a little. However, he was hit from behind and started screaming from the pain. The green-haired man's companion was surprised that a colorless person had managed to escape a little, but the green-haired man did not care because he thought Kay would die soon anyway. No one cared if a colorless person died. Kay, badly injured, worried about Nero, who began crying when he saw his comrade hurt. Kay only wanted Nero to run away. Suddenly, the scene changed to a completely different place. Kay woke up confused. The green-haired man saw that he was awake and was holding Kay ready to throw him into a gigantic tank of black water. He was willing to do this because Kay had woken up, and he thought the colorless young man was very unlucky. He explained that when all kinds of ink mix, they create a deadly residue for humans, and if Kay fell there, nothing would remain of his body. It was perfect for disposing of corpses. Kay, badly hurt, wanted to know who this man was. He only wanted to know why he was attacked. The green-haired man was very psychopathic, making it clear that they were shocked as well and did not expect to find such a big treasure in the Shadow District, a creature intelligent enough to follow a human, which was very rare. Kay saw that Nero was in a cage in the other man's hands. Nero cried a lot, and Kay wanted the cursed man to release his comrade. The green-haired man thought the scream of a colorless person was frightening, but he found it completely pathetic. He believed the black cat could be worth a huge amount of money on the black market. It was too good for a man like him to let go. Kay thought he had been careless and should not have let his guard down in the Shadow District. He had always endured discrimination and insults, but losing Nero, his only family, like that was something he could not accept. He made it very clear that the green-haired man should not mess with him. Suddenly, dark energy began emanating from Kay, and the green-haired man started to be affected. He felt like he was being sucked in, found the feeling disgusting, and ended up releasing Kay, who started free-falling. Kay fell into the black water, and the green-haired man thought it was a waste of time, but it was already resolved for him. Now they were rich because they would sell the cat on the black market. Poor Nero cried a lot. Kay, submerged in the black water, realized he needed to save his comrade at any cost, but his body would not move. He remembered Mari, unable to believe he would end this way. He did not accept it because he still had a promise. Then a voice called Kay, wanting to understand why he was standing there and why he was doing nothing. Kay was very scared and wanted to know who was speaking. The voice told him to accept it and do what he could because he could not end this way and had to save Nero. The voice said he should absorb everything and not hesitate, explaining that it had waited a long time and he should accept his true color. Kay began absorbing everything, even without understanding what was happening. He looked at himself and saw he was completely black and wanted to understand what it was. He was inside the ink. After that, he could remember, and the most important part was that he wanted to know who he was. Inside the black water, he heard Nero's crying and saw that his comrade was still there, so he needed to save him at any cost. The black water disappeared suddenly, and energy emerged, leaving the green-haired man and his friend very scared. The ink vanished instantly, and something appeared before those men. The green-haired man was in shock and could not believe it was happening. A creature appeared, and a gigantic hand moved toward them. Then the scene changed to show all the destruction Kay had caused. The police had already closed the area, and many people gathered out of curiosity. An old man told the police, very surprised, that he had seen it with his own eyes. He said a very small hand had appeared suddenly, and the police wrote down everything they heard. The old man explained that the hand transformed the entire area into endless destruction. A man was receiving care on a stretcher, while another spoke extensively with the police. Some colorists arrived at the scene and were relieved to know that only 2 people had been affected. The green-haired man had completely lost his color. The colorists did not care much because they were B-rank pioneers, and their reputation was not good. A blue-haired woman did not understand what could have happened to make them lose all their color. The red-haired man thought they needed to find out what happened, but could also leave it aside for now. They were there because of the enormous creature that appeared in the city, and the police officer saw the colorists and was very surprised, saying it was an honor to have them there. He explained that he was the supervisor of the place. The supervisor wanted to know what brought such busy people to the Shadow District. The red-haired colorist did not want the supervisor to worry, and explained that they were only asked to investigate the creature. He wanted the supervisor to show them the location, and the supervisor was obviously very willing to do so. The place was completely destroyed, and the two colorists observed everything. They recognized signs that the creature had left traces. The blue-haired girl revealed that they had tracked all reported locations of large creatures recently. But for one to appear suddenly in the city, even on the outskirts, showed that something was wrong. Usually they only saw small, harmless species in the city. She believed that this might be a new variant. The red-haired man thought they should not draw conclusions too quickly. More importantly, he wanted to know how they would track the creature. Seeing the immense destruction, he thought it would be very problematic. The scene suddenly shifts to Nero, who is grunting and trying to wake Kei, who is very weak. Then Kei saw Nero licking his hair. He was very surprised to see his comrade safe, and it was a huge relief for him. But he wanted to know what had happened. He blamed those two men and remembered falling into the ink and everything that happened afterward, leaving him completely shocked. He began to think that he might be the one responsible. He wanted to understand how it was possible and why it was so dark there. He could not see anything, so he asked Nero for help. Nero immediately sprang into action, spinning like Sonic and creating a light that illuminated the entire area. Kei was surrounded by many creatures, as was Nero, and he became very scared. He wanted to understand if this place was the Blacklands. He realized he was in the Black Forest area, which was only accessible to B-level pioneers or higher. Kei saw that the creatures were getting closer, so he began to run and called Nero to leave the area. Nero followed him, illuminating the entire place. One of the creatures tried to attack him, and Kei realized he was truly in danger. He thanked Nero for the help and managed to escape from several creatures, climbing structures to flee the area. The running did not stop at any moment until Kei felt a strange sensation in his body that he could not understand. Even after running so long, he did not feel tired. He could move faster and with more agility than ever. His entire body was overflowing with energy. Suddenly, a creature approached him closely, and Kei accepted that he might die. The creature bit his arm, but its teeth quickly broke after doing so, leaving Kei very surprised. The creature recoiled, and he looked at his arm, seeing that it was fine. He swore he would have received a fatal blow. He realized that this was the power of color. A creature appeared behind him. It was simply a cyclops. Kei was in a difficult situation, constantly being surprised. He did not understand why a predator from the Black Forest was there. The cyclops tried to attack him, and Kei was hit hard. Nero became very worried and ran to his comrade. Kei felt the impact a little, but somehow he felt that he could win. He had finally obtained the color he had longed for, and things would be different from now on. He began to exude his energy and felt that he no longer needed to run. Kei wanted to remember what had happened and feel the same sensation again. He turned completely black once more. The Cyclops charged at him, but Kei was now so strong that the force he applied to the ground cracked it. He jumped incredibly high and prepared an attack against the Cyclops, which quickly disappeared. Kei had caused massive destruction in the area and was very shocked by what he had done. He saw the horizon returning to color and could not believe how beautiful the place was. Then he returned to his normal form and began to fall, screaming in desperation before hitting the ground. Nero, as always, immediately went to check on Kei because he was always worried about his comrade. But Kei was concerned about his color because the more he used it, the more his power would be drained. He began to tremble, fearing he might lose his abilities at this rate. A voice asked him again what he was doing, telling Kei that his target was right in front of him and that he needed to act quickly. The voice explained that the assassin was in front of his eyes, and if Kei did not want to die, it was simple. He needed to extend his hand. Kei, panting heavily, extended his hand and began absorbing all the black part of the area. Nero watched curiously. The energy Kei absorbed was very dense, and now he believed he would survive. The scene then shifted to Mari's workshop, where someone opened the door and entered. Mari immediately welcomed the person. It was a hooded man. Despite his strange appearance, Mari wanted to know how she could help him and asked if he had any special request. The man approached silently without saying a word. Mari found it very suspicious and wondered if he realized how suspicious he looked. She grabbed a tool and demanded the hooded man stop, warning that she would make him regret it if he tried anything against her. Suddenly, the hooded man screamed, startling Mari. She yelled for him to stay away and started cursing him. It turned out the hooded man was Kei. He removed the hood and asked her to stay calm, identifying himself. He revealed that he barely recognized himself. Mari was shocked that it was Kei and wanted to understand what had happened to his appearance. She trembled with anger after hearing everything, wanting to punish the two who had done this to him. She grabbed her tools, ready to smash their heads with a hammer. Kei told her to calm down, explaining that, in a way, he had been avenged. Mari realized he had gotten a little excited. She told him she had been worried ever since they lost contact and never imagined something like this would happen. Even so, she was very happy he was safe. Kei apologized for making her worry. Mari thought surviving after falling into the ink and gaining color was simply incredible. But she believed black was the color of creatures, and he might be looked down upon. Kei did not care because he still had a chance to become a colorist. He decided to postpone other research for now and go straight to the Pioneer's Corps admission exam. He remained grateful to Nero for all the help, but he wanted to know if Mari could lend him some clothes or equipment for those lenses. He promised he would return them later, and Mari felt a little frustrated because this had happened many times before. But in the end, she considered it an investment in a future colorist. So she took his hand and asked him to follow her, explaining that she had the right items for him and that they would fit perfectly. The scene changed to the place where the admission test would happen, and it was crowded with people. A group of friends was surprised by how many people were there, and they sat together to support each other, trying not to panic and staying alert to pass the test. The competition was intense, and some people thought they had come very far to be taking this kind of test. In the end, it was the dream of every pioneer because among the Pioneer Corps, this was the body with the highest number of achievements in exploring the Dark Lands. Since an S-ranked corps had many skilled colorists, they were literally called the Hope of the Bright City. The only problem for some of them was that there were many strong candidates. They even gossiped that the second daughter of a traditional color family, a famous bounty hunter, was there, and even recently ascended and well-known pioneers were present. Still, the one who drew the most attention was Gale, a green-haired guy. Rumors said he was strong enough to handle uncontrollable creatures alone, but his cruel and violent nature usually caused problems, and he had been expelled from his previous corps. The three friends thought they did not need to worry and that they would demonstrate their value. Gale listened to everything the others were saying and thought those three were ridiculous kids. He felt disappointed because he had expected to see S-ranked people, but he was only seeing mediocre levels. There was not a single standout in front of him, but he believed that the girl from the traditional family could compete with him. The girl was named Ellie Chiano, and she was the second daughter of the Chiano family. In the end, he thought she was good enough to be noticed, and Gale began to wonder how they would react. Then, through the loudspeaker, the candidates were called, announcing that the admission exam for the Dawn Pioneer Corps would begin at that very moment. Suddenly, the colorists of the Dawn Pioneer Corps appeared. One of them was a yellow-haired man who had made a huge contribution to the recent large-scale creature hunt. People realized that the personal appearance of a colorist meant they were taking the recruitment seriously. The blonde man looked almost like a Super Saiyan, and everyone was surprised because it was the first time they had seen one of them up close. He had an overwhelming presence. The blonde welcomed everyone and thanked all those who had applied for the Dawn Pioneer Corps exam, believing that everyone gathered there had their own goals and missions, whatever they were. He did not care about that because all they needed was their own ability to achieve anything. He only needed skilled people seeking extremely strong candidates to venture into the Dark Lands and reclaim human territory. He warned that mediocre people were not needed, and they would begin without memory. He asked the candidates to look around, and they would have a good idea that the first test would be in a tournament format. After all, the most important ability for a pioneer was combat ability. Outside the city, it was literally a survival world where the strongest lived and the weakest died. The blonde wanted them to prove their skills, and they would select those who passed the first round based on the tournament results. The called numbers had to go up on stage. Then they called number 126, which was Gale, and number 286. People were surprised because there would be a big fight right at the start. Gale thought he was lucky because he would have some fun from the beginning, feeling very bored. He did not know how he could fight his opponent. He went up on stage and was confused because his opponent was simply hooded, and he did not understand why he was so strange. He also thought his opponent's posture was weird, and he seemed very weak. But Gale did not care, and quickly grabbed his sword, showing his opponent that he was bored of standing quietly for a while. Now that the fight was ready, he would do what he had to do. His energy was already visible in his sword. Everyone could see Gale's sword skills and was surprised because he could handle a sword very well, even at his age, truly deserving to be called a genius. Gale wanted to see if his opponent could block his attacks. He made it clear that if the opponent failed, he would be destroyed. Gale executed his move, but he was caught off guard because his opponent hit him with a massive punch, sending him flying. The other candidates were shocked by what they had just seen. Gale had been knocked down with a single punch, even losing his teeth, and no one could understand how that was possible. It was Kay who had done it, and he was also surprised because it was sudden and caused chaos everywhere. Other candidates began to tremble because they saw a black-colored person, the same color as the creatures. The yellow colorist was very impressed, but it was not only him. Eliciano was also very surprised. People were amazed for two reasons. The individual had black power, and Gale had been defeated with just one blow. Kay did not understand why the candidates were reacting this way and began to think he had made a mistake. He had to fight another person, where general confusion was happening. This man did not want to fight him. He kept asking Kay to stay away, and desperation was visible in his eyes. He tried to use a kind of wand, but it did not work. Suddenly, Kay punched him, sending him flying, and he won again. In the end, he He won many times, harmonizing his face and even taking teeth for free. He was like the people's dentist. The blonde man just watched, analyzing everything happening right in front of him. Everyone began to think that K was a promising boy, and he quickly became the highlight of the group of candidates. Not to mention that he was the first bearer of black color to appear, so the news would spread very fast. And the people of the Dawn Pioneers thought it was good to recruit him quickly before it was too late. Then the two other colorists, who had been investigating earlier, appeared and told the three of them, in a clearly ironic tone, that they were having a difficult day. The three were caught by surprise. The red-haired man was literally known as the leader of the red team, and he wanted to know if the exam was going well. But the three wanted to know what he was doing there, and the red team leader explained that he was just taking a look. They did not understand because he had been sent on a private mission. The red team leader explained that regarding that mission, he had made no progress, and it had ended up causing headaches. He then wanted to know if there was anyone worth recruiting, but the three thought that there would be good results this time. They had the young lady from the Shiano family and also someone extremely unique. The red-haired man quickly saw that there was a black-colored person, and everyone already knew he would recognize him immediately. They told the red-haired man that the black-colored person had defeated one of the top-ranking favorites and was showing impressive results. At this pace, they could consider his approval guaranteed. The blue-haired girl asked her leader if this might be a coincidental occurrence, and he thought it was, because a new color appearing after that incident was too strange. It was too much of a coincidence. For now, they would just observe the boy. In the end, Kay had a series of victories, and people began to find his power incredible. With that strength, he would certainly become a pioneer. Kay was enjoying himself a lot, but he still had to be careful because if he used his power too much like last time and lost his color, it would be the end of the line for him. The scene then shifted to Ellie Chiano, number 17, who easily defeated her opponent with her ice power. Everyone thought the Chiano family was impressive to see, and Ellie was a lady of prestige for everyone. No one knew how they could defeat her since she was very strong, and Kay just observed. Then the blue-haired girl suddenly stood in front of him and stared at him. Kay thought she was crazy, and that was how the last test ended. The blonde colorist thanked everyone for their efforts, and since they were behind schedule, he announced that they would go straight to the next test. Those who failed should leave. The failed candidates left, injured and tired. When the blonde was about to announce the next test, the red-haired man asked him to wait and said that the second test would be conducted personally by him. This surprised everyone because it was the red colorist. He was known as one of the strongest colorists in the Bright City, famous for reclaiming the Darklands, and had set a record for achievements in subjugation. They had heard that his destructive power was so intense that even allies hesitated to work with him. Since he was responsible for the second test, the candidates thought they were completely doomed. The blonde wanted to know if the red-haired man was sure, because the captain would scold him if he found out the red colorist had changed the exam on his own. But the red colorist told the blonde to relax because he already got scolded every single day. He explained that the test was simple and that they just had to endure. Then he used his flame power, and everyone was shocked and confused. Suddenly, the location changed completely. Everyone was inside spheres and did not understand what was happening. The red team leader explained that he had recreated the environment of a region he had been to before, and it would get very hot. He also explained that the Darklands were full of extreme environments where humans could barely survive. Compared to that place, where they were now, was just a simple heater, and all they had to do was endure to pass. But if they could not pass, it meant they were weak and should never have made it past the first phase. Everyone was shocked because it was very hot, and it did not seem like just an ordinary heater. Everyone was scared, not knowing what kind of place the Darklands were. Some candidates gave their maximum effort to endure. The blonde had heard that the red colorist had not trained recently, but now he could see that his skills had not weakened and the rumors were exaggerated. After all, covering so many people with a barrier required incredible control. What was expected from someone who had reached the peak suddenly happened. The barrier around one of the candidates started to crack. It was completely blue until it suddenly exploded. It was Ellie Chiano inside, and the red team leader thought this was very good. He thought the Chiano family's power would be weak against this, but she broke the barrier immediately. He believed that the girl might really deserve to be called a prodigy, but he wanted to see Kay, who was still enduring, but had not broken the barrier. In the end, the red colorist did not expect much from the boy. While Kay was visibly desperate, he did not know what to do. He had overused his power in previous fights, and if he had known this would happen, he would have held back a bit. The more he restrained himself, the faster his energy drained. Then he realized that his color was disappearing. If he lost his color in front of everyone, the way they would treat him, if he was lucky, would be to turn him into a lab rat. He felt he could not stand still and had to find a way. He panicked because he did not know if there was anything he could absorb like he had done last time. Then he thought about something to absorb and realized that the barrier was a color ability. He thought it might be possible, but there was a big problem. He did not know the limits of his absorption ability. He did not have time to think because it was too hot. He just decided to find out while trying. He started absorbing and was shocked because he had direct absorption. The problem was that he did not only absorb his own energy, but also everyone else's. The colorists were watching from above, not understanding what was happening. The red-haired man was very surprised by this, because it seemed that this time they had a real madman, and suddenly everyone was fine. Kay soon realized that this was not supposed to happen, and panic came over him. After all, he had drawn too much attention, and Eliciano had in mind that this exam was everything for her. But in the end, everyone was very impressed by a boy who had black color. She wanted to prove the strength she had trained for her family, but the appearance of a completely new color, something unprecedented, made her unable to hold back, and she became anxious. She was raised to be the best in her family, so she did not want to fall behind anyone and could not risk upsetting her sister. But Kay was truly strong enough that she could not guarantee victory even if she fought seriously. There was something in him that could not be explained by brute strength alone. She did not understand why he was there at her moment, but she decided she should not care about what he was. She vowed that next time it would not be like this. The red team leader thought that the black color ability was incredible because the aura alone was insane and absorbed everything around it. He approached Kay and admitted that he could not contain his own curiosity. He wanted the boy to tell him more about the black color, but Kay was worried about his exam. The red colorist told him to relax because at this level, he could pass easily. Kay's eyes widened as he realized that, in the end, drawing attention had actually helped him. He had finally become a pioneer. The yellow-haired man began scolding the red colorist because the exam was still ongoing, and the red colorist apologized and said he would make it right later. The yellow-haired man informed everyone that, due to some unforeseen events, the exam was interrupted. However, the test would continue, except for Eliciano, number 17, who had broken the barrier alone. The rest would go through an extra test. She watched the red colorist taking Kay, and then the scene changed to them exiting a car. The red colorist told the girl with him to wait a little because he would return soon. Kay was shocked at what he saw. It was the place where he had fallen into the ink trash. The red colorist knew the place looked terrible and explained that an incident had happened there not long ago. He explained that 2 pioneers had lost their colors, which was the first time this had ever happened, according to witnesses. They said they had seen a giant creature and then Kay appeared, the first black-colored person, which the red colorist thought was a coincidence. He noticed that Kay's power eventually absorbed other colors, a completely strange ability, and Kay became worried. In the end, he realized that the red colorist had known from the beginning. He saw that escaping at that moment was impossible because the colorist was one of the people even called a hero. The red colorist began to laugh, explaining to the boy that he was just testing him. He also explained that his job was to find out what was happening there, but he was more interested in Kay's ability, whether it was the black color itself or the power Kay was using, because he had never seen anything like it. Color powers seemed simple, but normally they did not mix at all. However, Kay's ability completely ignored all these complex rules. Judging by what had happened in the second exam, the red colorist believed that Kay could not fully control it. He was sure that Kay would not absorb everything if he could really control it. Kay began to stammer, and the red colorist said they needed to perform a test. Kay did not understand what he meant. The red colorist wanted to see the limits of his power and asked the boy to try to absorb his power. Kay was shocked because this was extremely dangerous, and he was worried something could go wrong. The red colorist thought it was far too early for Kay to worry about him. In the end, he more or less forced Kay to try. Black represented the Darklands, and was a color symbolizing a sinister force that consumed everything. Leaving such a dangerous ability uncontrolled was unacceptable to the red colorist. Depending on how it was used, that ability could shake the foundations of the bright city. Although people did not yet know, there were also monoid creatures, and if Kay ever faced them, the red colorist believed that, in the worst case, they would have to deal with Kay there and then. Kay grabbed his arm to try, but he was worried about being blamed later. Suddenly, he began pulling energy from the red colorist and became desperate because it was extremely intense. He just wanted to stop but could not control himself. It was as if boiling lava ran through his body, a tremendous power. Now he understood the color of the man called a hero. The red colorist just observed and saw that the boy was absorbing without stopping and seemed insatiable. Still, perhaps due to immaturity, the red colorist thought a strong person could probably resist absorption, but it was obviously dangerous for most people. What they saw in the exam was not everything. The red colorist also wanted to know how absorbed colors were used. Kay suffered greatly during the absorption, and suddenly his black aura turned into a red aura. The red colorist was surprised to see this form. In the end, Kay was half with the red aura and half with his own appearance. Suddenly, that enormous hand appeared. The red colorist saw that if he had not known, he would have thought the boy was a creature. He concluded that Kay himself had caused an incident, and he had much to discover about him. But first, he needed to put out the fire in front of him. The red colorist thought he would have to subdue Kay before he destroyed anything else. A voice told Kay that this was intense and that he wanted more, as he was overflowing with power and no longer needed to hold back. Kay did not understand why the voice kept appearing to him. He wanted the voice to be silent, and he began to fight against what seemed to be trying to tame him. Suddenly, he returned to his normal appearance, and the red-haired guy was visibly shocked while Kay was very out of breath, and he wanted to know if the young man had suppressed his power. Kay opened his eyes wide, thinking he was going to die, not even understanding why his power had released suddenly, and all of this happened right in front of a colorist. Kay felt he needed to understand his power properly soon, so he explained to the red-haired guy that he had been surprised because his power came out stronger than he expected, but he believed that it was still a success. And in the end, the red-haired guy thought it was fun. At the end, the red-haired guy decided to take a risk and told Kay that they could end the tests there, reminding Kay that he was responsible for handling an incident that had happened there and had already accepted the request. So, he had to find the culprit, and in front of him, there was someone who seemed like the perfect suspect. Naturally, Kay was very scared at that moment. The red-haired guy explained to Kay that many people were watching that case, and since Kay had drawn attention, as soon as rumors about his ability and color spread, they would immediately point fingers at him. Even though it was in the outskirts of the city, the damage seemed to cost hundreds of millions, and the red-haired guy wanted to know if the boy had money to cover all of it. In the end, the city leadership would decide that his power was too dangerous and might ban him. In the worst case, Kay could become a laboratory rat, and he realized that there was no way to escape. In the end, he ended up becoming a victim, and the red-haired guy told Kay that if he stayed under his guidance, he might be able to fix the situation. And Kay practically surrendered into the hands of the man known as a hero. The red-haired guy explained that he would not fix everything for Kay for free, and he would have to do some favors in return. He wanted to know if Kay could handle that. In the end, Kay thought that doing anything was much better than owing a huge amount of money or becoming a laboratory rat, so he revealed that he would do anything for the red-haired guy. This obviously made the red-haired guy interested, and the scene suddenly shifted to a moving truck, with Kay inside, wondering if this was the first step of a pioneer. Kay was not alone because Gale appeared and called him, not by name, but as Black Hair. Gale wanted him to stop being foolish and sit down because he was getting nervous about Kay. In the end, the work of a pioneer was exactly what Kay expected. Now he was on the same team as Gale and Ellie, but he could not believe it. Then the scene shifted back to where the red-haired guy wanted him to participate in an exploration. The red-haired guy explained that he had chosen an unexplored place and would need Kay's help. Kay felt insecure because he was not sure he could face something like that. But suddenly the red-haired guy clarified that Kay would not go alone and did not need to worry too much. In the end, all the recruits would participate anyway, and Kay was just one of them. All the recruits. The corporation would announce the expedition plan soon. The details came later, and Kay could not be late. The red-haired guy asked him to show up at the designated location. The scene shifted to the present, and Kay saw that the people were already waiting when he arrived. The interference from the red-haired guy had disrupted the exam process, so Kay wanted to keep things fair. All other candidates got another chance, and that was how others passed the extra test. Ellie, who had the highest score, personally asked to join the red-haired guy's team. Gale made it clear that he did not believe he had embarrassed himself because of Kay. Gale thought that Kay had only let his guard down for a second, and next time he did not want luck to be on Kay's side again. When the exploration ended, Gale wanted everyone to wait for him because he would be ready to fight. At the same time, Gale thought that if Miss Lavian, revealing the woman's name, were not behind him, it would be completely different, and he would crush Kay right there. In the end, Ellie told Gale to forget it because he would lose to Kay again anyway. And she also thought that Gale was above Kay's level, so he was just wasting his breath. Obviously, Gale was furious at what he had just heard, and Kay did not imagine that they would not get along. Ellie Chiano revealed that she would be the one to fight Kay first, and Kay was obviously very scared. Ellie thought that just because they had exchanged glances, they had agreed, and she told Gale to be quiet because he had lost and should wait for his turn, creating a tense atmosphere while they traveled. Kay did not know if things would really work out. The scene shifted to them leaving, and they were at the Dawn Pioneers forward base. Before going to the Black Lands, Kay always prepared alone, and he had no idea that S-class corporations really did things on a large scale, providing supplies, structures, and more. In the end, Mari appeared and touched his cheek, wanting to know what Kay was thinking. Kay was surprised that Mari was there, but Mari thought she should be on his first mission. Kay mentioned that Nero was also there. In the end, Kay thanked her for taking care of Nero, and Mari, in any case, thought Nero was family and was happy. She thought joining the Dawn Corporation expedition was an amazing opportunity, and she believed her skills were important there. She thought it would be a great experience for her. Then a young man announced that it was time for the meeting, and everyone should gather. As planned, they would enter the Black Lands soon. Kay entrusted Nero to Mari so she could take care of him, and Mari asked him not to do anything reckless. Kay said goodbye. Mari saw that Nero was not sad and told him not to worry. Suddenly, Nero jumped, leaving Mari talking alone, and Nero simply followed Kay as if nothing had happened. She was completely shocked. Mari did not understand anything and wanted to know how this was happening. Watching Kay leave, she preferred to believe it could not be serious. Then the colorist told the candidates to prepare, because they were about to enter the Black Lands. A colorist reminded all of them that safety should come first, and according to the scouts, Area 21 had reports of unknown dangerous creatures, and it was also where the corpse of an A-class creature had appeared, so it was extremely dangerous for anyone starting there at that moment. The woman giving the warning was Arancia, and she wanted everyone to stay alert. Soon a young man caught her attention, and she wanted to understand what the problem was. The young man explained that the red-haired chief was taking the new recruits to another place. Arancia was completely shocked and could not believe it. The young man told her that she was in command of the location, and Arancia became extremely irritated because she thought the red-haired guy always caused problems. She wanted him just to bring the newcomers back safely. Suddenly, the scene shifted to Gale and Ellie, who were behind Kay and the red-haired guy. They were all looking around nervously, starting to tremble. They were suspicious that the team was going somewhere else, and Kay was not sure if it was really safe. The red-haired guy explained that their destination was different, and that it was only novices there, so he thought everyone should stay calm. Kay wanted to know why they had come along, because he had heard that the red-haired chief would only bring him. Gale and the girl from the Ciano family were free, but they did not understand why they were there, and at the same time they thought the red-haired guy's training was not something anyone could handle, and he would not let all that effort benefit only Kay. The red-haired guy explained to all the students that his goal was not to feed anyone on a silver platter, but he believed that none of them would be seriously harmed if they stayed with him, since he was really part of that team and did not want small talk. He wanted everyone to start working and stop wasting time talking. Suddenly, several creatures appeared around him. Ellie wanted to show her skills and immediately used her abilities, now seeing what the Black Lands were really like. The place was suffocating for her. Creatures kept appearing, and a real fight was nothing like training. She thought it was better to watch her energy because if she wasted it, it would be over quickly. She looked at Kay, thinking she needed to move smartly and think ahead, not stay behind him. Suddenly, she wanted to know why he was not using a spoit to help himself. Kay explained that he did not have a spoit at all. He explained that there were too many enemies, and he thought he could manage without one, so he never used it. Gale was completely shocked at that moment, just observing, and Kay thought it was strange for these people because a spoit was a mandatory weapon for pioneers fighting creatures. To fight a creature with a spoit, they had to mix colors into it. The big problem was that Kay had taken down one as if it were very easy. Gale began trembling as he held his sword, realizing that he had faced Kay without even using a spoit, and he promised that one day he would crush Kay with his own hands. The red-haired guy thought this was normal because two geniuses were creating tension, which made things more interesting. He told the group that they were almost there, and only a little farther, and he wanted to finish quickly so he could celebrate. They took a short break, warning everyone not to let their guard down because they had not really started yet. They told the three to rest for 10 minutes before moving on. The three were completely exhausted, and Gale had used too much color, so he took a vial of green color. Kay saw that Gale was using personal paint, a refined, special paint that restores color and energy. It was an essential item for a pioneer. Since it was custom-made to match the unique color of the person, Kay had heard it was very expensive, but they used it in front of him as if it was nothing. Kay felt very jealous, but pretended he did not need it. Then Ellie saw Kay approaching a dead creature and wanted to know what he was doing. Kay began absorbing the color from the creature and believed he was now fully recovered. Ellie asked if he was really okay, and Kay explained that he did this frequently. Ellie thought it was strange that he absorbed a creature and nothing happened. Gale wanted to understand how Kay could endure something like that without blinking. The red-haired guy told them that the break was over, hoping the three had rested enough. They arrived at a location where there was a kind of black barrier. The three wanted to know what it was, and the red-haired guy said he had brought them there for that reason. He asked them to watch what he would do. He quickly prepared his ability and launched it at the barrier, which turned the color of his power. He explained that the barrier simply absorbed the power and became even stronger, which reminded him of Kay's ability. That made him sense that Kay's power could remove the barrier. Behind the barrier, there was a path to the ruins, where they needed to find their mission objective. The objective was the Stella fragment, and Kay was very surprised. Gale wanted to know what a Stella was, and Ellie had never heard of it. Kay preferred to stay quiet. The red-haired guy explained that a Stella was something the Bright City was desperately trying to find, and he would explain more later. First, they had to remove the barrier. Kay approached the barrier and started absorbing it. The barrier's density was enormous, and the red-haired guy was very surprised it was working. The barrier began to disappear, and the red-haired guy thought Kay would be very useful. Suddenly, a vibration occurred, and Gale became very worried because it was so strong that if they made that much noise, the creatures would appear. As Gale had imagined, a legion of creatures appeared and quickly surrounded the four. The red-haired guy did not seem worried, and Ellie, together with Gale, quickly drew their weapons. They would handle the creatures while Kay removed the barrier. The red-haired guy wanted those two to kill all of them. Gale defeated several creatures quickly, and Ellie was not falling behind either. The red-haired guy was ready to intervene but seemed not to need to, believing he would have to clean up the mess of the novices. However, they were good enough to handle everything, and he liked it when the novices could manage on their own. Meanwhile, Kay noticed something while absorbing the barrier. Something was wrong because he felt a similar power coming from it and did not understand why it was black. He thought that if he lost focus, the barrier could steal his color. But in a power contest, Kay was sure he was stronger, so he managed to absorb everything and even felt relieved. The entrance to the ruins seemed strange to him because it was just a hole, and he could not even see the bottom. He informed the red-haired guy that he had removed the barrier, and the red-haired guy was very happy. His instincts had been correct. He told the two novices in front of him that the barrier had fallen and that they should regroup. He explained that they did not need to destroy everything. Suddenly, he sensed something that made his eyes widen. Quickly, he grabbed the two novices at an incredible speed and protected them. Many creatures were being destroyed at that moment. Gale could not believe what was happening because the ground was completely torn apart. The red-haired guy thought it was almost too good to be true and warned the three novices that they would receive reports about a dangerous entity in the area. But the red-haired guy could not believe that the entity had to appear at that exact moment. He realized there was no more time for jokes. The creature that appeared looked cruel, with its face half one thing and half another, and it had several weapons. The red-haired guy wanted all the novices with him to pay attention. He told the three to enter the ruins immediately, work together, and find the Stella fragment. He believed the three novices could handle the task. Kay was very scared because it was just the three of them, but the red-haired guy wanted no more discussion and pushed Kay, while the other two had decided on their own. Kay fell, terrified, not understanding how they could do it without the chief. The red-haired guy faced the creature directly. Kay felt pain from the fall. He lit his lantern to look at the area and was very frightened by what he saw. The place had many destroyed buildings, and he just wanted to know what kind of place it was. He thought it was incredible and could not believe such a place existed underground. Gale thought it was too dark, and Ellie just wanted him to stop complaining, and they had to go to the bright spot. Eventually, they reached Kay himself. He felt relieved because he thought he had been separated and was alone. Ellie explained that she had also been wandering because of Gale and did not understand, making it clear that she was as lost as he was. The three agreed that the place was enormous. Gale could not imagine that they would find traces of an ancient civilization underground. They had no idea how they could find the Stella fragment in such a large place. They did not even know what the fragment looked like. Kay noticed that Gale was right because searching blindly would take forever. If Nero were there, it would be much easier. Suddenly, he heard the small sound Nero makes and could not believe it. Kay's eyes widened as he realized Nero was there. Ellie saw that Kay had a creature with him. Kay realized he was in trouble and did not know what to do. There was no way to invent an excuse after they had seen Nero, but he thought that maybe this was a good opportunity. He could not hide Nero forever once he started working as a pioneer, so he could show his two coworkers that Nero was truly useful. He asked them to come closer and explained that he had a way to find the Stella fragment easily. After he explained, Gale could not believe that Nero was capable of doing that. While the two argued, Ellie simply held Nero. Kay asked Nero to show how amazing he was to Gale. Nero jumped, becoming light, and Gale was shocked, while Ellie seemed to have expected it. They started walking, and Nero illuminated the path and guided them at the same time. For Gale, it was crazy to have a creature that followed humans and had special abilities. He wanted to know where Kay had found Nero. Kay told them that Nero had said the Stella fragment was there. Suddenly, Nero sensed something, and Kay realized he had found something. They followed Nero, who was very fast, but they had already walked a lot and still had to descend. Gale thought Kay was scared, but Kay revealed he was calm, and they decided to enter. The place was enormous. Kay saw that Nero had changed direction and must have found something. Suddenly, a machine appeared, making Kay's eyes widen. Gale grabbed his sword, and they tried to understand what it was. It was simply a machine, but they did not recognize it and thought it was a creature. The machine scanned Ellie and identified her color in hex code, and it did the same with Gale. Kay was very surprised. The machine announced that the color of the Black Witch had been detected, identifying them as a threat, and started attacking. It hit Kay hard, sending him flying, and Kay was obviously irritated at being attacked suddenly. Since Kay had been attacked first, he believed the machine was ready to be crushed. He tried to punch, but the machine also tried to punch, and they collided. Kay felt a lot of pain because the robot was very hard. Before the robot could make another move, Ellie attacked it, and Gale did as well. Ellie noticed that even using her color power did not make a scratch. She began to realize that the robot was not a creature and saw a core inside it. She wondered if it was paint inside the robot. Kay took the opportunity to attack the robot and punched its torso, but he was surprised because the robot responded very quickly and tried to hit him. Kay quickly dodged the punch. Kay realized that normal attacks would not work and did not know what to do until he remembered he could use the attack where his body turns completely black, which might produce results. However, it consumed a lot of color, so he decided to cover only his fist. He managed to do it and prepared the move. He simply tore the robot's torso off and it fell to the ground. Kay felt relieved because it had been more annoying than he expected. Then he saw the robot's core and noticed it was different from what he usually saw. He thought that Mari would like to see it, so he decided to take it to her. The other two novices wanted to know what power Kay had used. Ellie wanted to know for their next fight, and Gale was irritated because since Kay could do that, he should have used it earlier. Kay explained that the technique drained so much color that he did not want to use it unless he had to. Suddenly, they heard a noise, and the door opened by itself. Nero started making his grunts, and Kay thought something was there. He could not see anything, and wondered if it was really safe. Then Kay realized that it was like the barrier from before. Suddenly, the darkness began pulling them inside, and a terrible confusion happened. They were in deep darkness, and to make things worse, they had lost their colors, leaving them very scared. Next, the scene shifts to the Eastern Administrative Office, where an angry man slams a stack of papers on his desk while insulting a kid he considers a brat. He wants to know if anyone has already found the kid's location and where he went. A frightened employee explains that he heard the kid left for an expedition meeting with Red at that exact moment, and that the kid also sent a message telling the furious man not to stick his nose where it didn't belong. The man is furious with Red because Red took someone who uses the color black, and he believes that choice is extremely dangerous. He becomes frustrated and thinks that Red must have something wrong in his head, since heroes should not push things that far. When the creature appeared inside the city, they tried their best to cover up the incident so the citizens would not panic, but the council turned into chaos again, and now everyone is claiming that the black tide has started once more. The man is upset because he knows he has nothing to say in his defense and will end up being scolded again. Nothing will be solved. A girl with two colored hair listens to the whole conversation. Her name is Camellia, and the man asks her to give him some excuse he can use. She thinks his whining is amusing and finds it funny that the director is in such a bad mood today. She wants him to relax because the way he is acting will send him to the hospital again. Camellia is the captain of the Dawn Pioneers Corporation. She understands that he is worried, but she wants him to calm down and reminds him that Red would never go to that place without a plan. She tells the director that they are talking about Red, who is known as the most reliable safety device they have, and no one is more suited for the job than him. She believes Red is simply waiting for some unexpected benefit, and the only thing everyone needs right now is trust, the complete opposite of what the director is feeling, which is fear and doubt. While she drinks her tea, she suddenly tastes bitterness and dislikes it immediately. The director knows that as long as Red is there, nothing bad will happen, but he still feels uneasy. Camellia is not a very balanced girl, and she dumps several sugar cubes into her drink, wondering how anyone can drink something so terrible without doing the same. The director gets irritated and wants her to focus on the conversation, but she tells him she is not deaf and can hear him perfectly. She then asks if he is so prejudiced against the the color black and wants to know if all this is because of the Black Witch. The director believes that the color black is dangerous and symbolizes death and fear, especially because of the first black tide caused by the witch. That event almost destroyed humanity. Creatures appeared, the world was covered in dark mist, and everything turned into black land. The tide is coming again, and the city has already resisted several waves. The next threat is only a matter of time. The real reason everyone is so desperate to explore and reclaim the land is simply to survive. He asks if she received the report about the increase in strange phenomena around the city and the fact that someone with black color has appeared. They still do not know the connection between those two things, and the future is uncertain, so they need all the firepower they can get. Camellia reminds him of what Lord Luminous said. They must use every available resource, even if the individual with the black color is that resource. She says the director must convince the council. The director thinks it is easier said than done, but he promises to do his best, since he does not know whether the bright city might one day revolve around that boy. Then the scene shifts to Kay, Gale, and Ellie Chiano, who are in the middle of nowhere trying to understand what happened. Both Gale and Ellie are shocked because their colors have disappeared, and they do not understand why Kay still has his. Kay believes it is because he has the black color. Gale lets out a small scream and feels extremely weak, and Ellie feels the same, with no strength left in her body. Kay cannot understand why the two of them are in such a condition, because he feels fine. He wonders if they are like this because it is their first time being completely without color. Ever since he entered that space, he has felt a strange sensation. When he focuses his vision, he feels like he can see something, and he starts seeing a type of core inside Gale. Suddenly, they hear a noise that startles all of them. Gale wants to know who is there and demands that the person show themselves immediately. The whisper is something Kay has heard before, but it still feels different to him, and he begins to believe that something bad is about to happen. He opens his eyes wide as he looks to the side, and his two teammates react the same way. They see a creature standing there. They are shocked because they did not feel anything and have no idea when that creature appeared. The creature is completely black and points directly at Kay. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a black hole that seems to be sucking everything in, and among the debris there are many creatures, a whole legion of monsters. Kay sees everything, but he does not know whether this is a memory or reality. He begins questioning who he really is. Then he hears a voice telling him that he needs a name, and the voice gives him the name Kay, saying that his mission is to find his own light and color. Kay becomes extremely frightened by everything he is seeing and wants to understand what those bizarre scenes mean. He starts lamenting the situation, but in the end, he is certain he saw Lumiel. Gale thinks it must be some kind of joke and draws his sword, wanting the creatures to attack him because he is not afraid, while Ellie trembles in fear. Gale swings his sword from side to side, trying to understand what he has done wrong, while Ellie falls to her knees and begs for everything to stop. Gale is completely out of his mind, as if he had consumed something rotten, and he screams that he will kill everyone standing in front of him, showing how strange he is. Meanwhile, Ellie collapses emotionally, apologizing to her sister and promising she will never do something like that again, showing that she carries a deep sense of guilt. Kay sees that both of them are not in a normal state, and the creature that had appeared earlier is now gone. He realizes that place is not somewhere they can stay for long, and he feels they should leave quickly. Then Nero appears, and Kay becomes very happy to see that his little companion is safe. He wants to know if Nero is alright, but Nero tries to explain something he cannot understand. Kay wonders if something else is there, but Nero starts flying, and Kay decides it would be best simply to follow the path that Nero is showing. Before leaving, he feels he should take care of his two teammates, who are collapsing, so he asks Nero for help since Nero has an ability. Nero begins to shine. Because of that, Ellie Chiano and Gale slowly recover their senses. Kay feels relieved, but asks the two of them to remain where they are, because he will go ahead to investigate something. He walks through the darkness, following Nero's trail, looking around because it feels like he is wandering through an endless void where nothing can be seen. Then the whisper returns once again, repeating that no color can ever stain Kay. He becomes irritated by these confusing, riddle-like messages until he suddenly sees a light and becomes unsure of what it might be. He cannot believe something is truly there and immediately starts running toward it. He sees a large glow and thinks he has finally found the Stella fragment. Judging by its appearance, Kay believes it definitely must be the fragment, though its shine and shape are different from the ones he saw before. Maybe each fragment has its own form. Either way, he decides he should grab it quickly and get out of that eerie place because he does not want to stay there even one more minute. He approaches the object and takes it. But then something strange happens. His color begins to mix with something else, and he cannot understand it. His absorption ability activated by itself. Even so, he believes everything is fine, and it seems to last only a moment. Then he looks around and notices the change. The dark space fades, and everything begins to brighten. The Black Land disappears, and Kay realizes once again that this place is full of mysteries and never stops surprising him. He quickly returns to Gale and Ellie to check if they are feeling better. Both are surprised that Kay seems perfectly fine inside such darkness, and even Kay cannot explain why. He tells them that the important thing is that he has found the Stella fragment, which was their mission objective. Gale thinks that the item Red mentioned looked much smaller than expected, while Ellie is amazed by the colors surrounding it. They want to know whether Kay's body was affected, but Kay insists that he feels completely fine. The real problem starts when Nero suddenly decides to eat the Stella fragment, leaving Kay in total shock at what he has just witnessed. The other two are just as startled, and all three of them want to understand what Nero is doing. Kay became desperate and tried to warn Nero that that thing was not food, while Gale reacted in a much worse way because he grabbed Nero and started shaking the poor creature up and down, trying to understand how Nero had managed to do that, and forcing him to spit it out immediately, and Kay obviously begged Gale to stop. However, Gale could not accept the fact that they had almost died to reach that place only for something like this to happen so suddenly. And Kay started arguing with him because he wanted Gale to take his hands off Nero, when suddenly the entire structure began to shake, and debris started falling everywhere, catching the three of them by surprise. And Kay could not understand why the place was collapsing at all, while Gale wanted Kay to stop talking and just run. And because of that, they quickly rushed toward the exit. At that moment, the scene shifted to several people gathered together, observing the entire area. And Arancia could see that a large portion of the ground had been completely torn apart, which made her start to lament because they had been warned about a dangerous entity, and she began to imagine what it could be. Then a collaborator approached her and, while looking at those marks, asked if it was really what he was thinking, and Arancia confirmed that the one she referred to as a battle-addicted bastard had appeared once again. That creature with a human shape, known as the Sword Demon, made her hope that it was only a small territorial dispute, but obviously one of the witch's black hands had to appear, and she was clearly unhappy about that because whenever the Sword Demon showed up, he always picked a fight first and was also extremely cunning, to the point that she considered him an unbearable individual. And although there had been reports of creatures appearing in several pioneer zones recently, she did not know if that was related to the Sword Demon's appearance. So she informed everyone that the investigation would end there and that everyone should prepare to retreat. The collaborator did not understand because they were almost at their destination, but Arancia refused and explained that they had already reached the minimum objective and secured enough ink and raw materials, and she did not want to risk more than that, since the main goal was simply to make those rookies get used to the Black Land. And for Arancia, that was more than enough, until suddenly a massive explosion occurred, and she saw a red glow and wondered if it was the red guy. If he was fighting directly, Arancia believed that the Sword Demon was definitely there, which surprised her greatly. And then she saw something approaching their position and shouted for everyone to duck, when a huge explosion hit the area and caught everyone off guard. And without hesitating, she grabbed her hammer and prepared to join the fight, showing her immense strength as she delivered a blow that caused a gigantic explosion, making it clear to everyone that the expedition was over. She then ordered everyone to return to the forward base and informed them that she would go meet the Red Boss, while another young man told her that he would guide the rest back and asked her to be careful. And suddenly Arancia leapt forward toward the place where the battle between the Red One and the Sword Demon was happening, and the impact they were causing on the environment was so great that the ground was breaking apart into many fragments. The fight was extremely intense, and the Sword Demon prepared a move and threw his spear toward the Red One, who managed to block it with his sword, allowing the Sword Demon to close the distance. And once again, the Red One blocked another attack, something the Sword Demon truly did not expect. And at that moment, the Red One unleashed an ability toward the Sword Demon, who had no option other than to dodge. Arancia believed that the Red Boss had created a perfect distraction and wondered if the Sword Demon would manage to evade her attack as well, feeling very confident that she would hit him with full force, and she slammed her hammer into him and sent him crashing into the ground with tremendous brutality, causing the earth to crack even more, while the Red One started to smile in relief and thought that it had been very close, although Arancia believed he was talking nonsense. She knew she had hit the Sword Demon, but believed it was still not enough, and soon the creature stood back up, and the Red One thought everything was fine, because with her color, they could deal with that extremely annoying opponent more easily. But even so, he wanted Arancia not to hold back against the Sword Demon, and Arancia was glad she had arrived before the Red One went all out, because no colorist, including herself, wanted to see the Red Boss fighting seriously. The Red One noticed that Arancia was always complaining, but regardless of that, it was very good to have her there, and together they could break another one of the witch's black hands. So Arancia began releasing a large amount of power, while the sword demon simply observed for a moment until they heard someone struggling because they were almost reaching the surface, which surprised the red one greatly, while the sword demon tried to understand what was happening. In the end, the three boys were arguing while climbing toward the surface because they kept pushing each other, until Kay finally placed his hand on the surface and felt relieved that they had finally made it. And the three of them climbed out of the hole, with Kay admitting that he was happy to see the black land again and promising himself that he would never go back down there, until the sword demon noticed them and immediately rushed toward the three boys. The red one became extremely worried because he saw that the boys had appeared at the worst possible moment, and he shouted for them to stay back and not try to fight the sword demon. But the three of them ignored the warning and quickly grabbed their swords, and Eliciano and Gale attempted to strike the sword demon, only for him to shatter both of their swords as if they were toys, leaving them completely stunned, which was entirely understandable because a specially reinforced spoit weapon had been broken with a single blow. Soon, Gale believed that he was going to die, and the sword demon prepared another strike. But before he could hit the two of them, Kay moved in front of them and took the slash in their place, and the wound was massive because it cut through a large portion of his body, causing Kay to fall to the ground after being struck, and the two of them could not believe what they were seeing. And before they could even react, Gale was hit by a powerful knee strike from the sword demon. And with that, the sword demon grabbed Eliciano as if she were nothing at all and took her as a hostage. He demanded that everyone stop attacking, and the sword demon ordered them to open a path and not pursue him. And he also demanded the key and ordered them to hand it over to him, making it very clear that if they did not do what he wanted, everyone there would lose their lives. And the red one immediately looked at Kay, who was lying on the ground and had lost his hand, which made him extremely furious at the sword demon, while Kay slowly began to move. While the sword demon pressured them to make a decision quickly, Arancia was completely outraged by everything that was happening, because she did not understand what the sword demon was talking about, since she had no idea about any key at all. And suddenly Kay stood up, making the sword demon immediately turn his attention to him and wonder who he was. And at that moment, Kay was completely black.